if you're like lining up your pencils to bring yourself enjoyment, if that makes you happy, then it's not OCD. But if you were lining up your pencils because if they weren't in a straight line, then your house would burn down or your family would get hurt or something, then that's where it's OCD.
This is Down to Earth Conversations, where we hear from ordinary people who are helping to bring a bit of heaven down to earth. Kia ora, welcome to another episode of Down to Earth Conversations with me, your host, Andy Dixon. Thank you for joining me again today. You probably didn't notice, but it's been an extra week between episodes this time. I was away last weekend in Tauranga for a workshop that I was privileged to be part of about inclusivity in the church or Christian spaces and the queer community. The most rewarding thing was seeing people have their questions validated. Being assured that asking questions about what you believe is not actually something that goes against faith, but is in fact an important part of faith. After the workshop, I sat down with the main speaker of the day, Amanda Pilbrow, and we reflected on the day and her journey that led to her involvement in the day. So keep an eye or an ear out for that conversation, which will come out in a few episodes' time. But because I was away last weekend, I decided to cut myself some slack so I didn't burn out or get anxious, and gave myself an extra week to get this episode out. Now, mental health needs nurturing, and since I talk about it all the time, I figured it's important to take my own advice and to look after myself. And speaking of mental health, we're heading into that space again today with Amelie Coggan, founder of Little Joys, a business creating products to support people in their mental health journey. We talk about Little Joys and how it came that an 18-year-old is already several years into running her own business. A kōrero that includes Amelie inviting us into her life with OCD, Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. We hear about what it is and what it is not, why people's ignorance can be painful, some of the things that have been helpful for her, and how she has become involved in supporting others along the way. Just a couple of things before we get into the episode. Firstly, there was a little technical issue with Amelie's mic, which I've cleaned up as best I can, but it may sound a little different than usual. Still very listenable, but just not up to this perfectionist's standards. That's really hard to say, perfectionist's standards. Also, we explore the topic of mental health, so if you find yourself needing to push pause and take a break, please do so. Or head to the Voices of Hope link in the show notes for a range of support organisation details. But now, let's hear from a great human with a powerful story. This is episode 75 of Down to Earth Conversations. Here's Amelie Coggan. Well, it's a real pleasure to be sitting with Amelie Coggan today. Kia ora, Amelie. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
So we met first at the Voices of Hope event, It's Not Weak to Speak, which was a night focused around mental health support, encouraging people on their mental health journey. You were there giving away these cool little creations and these cards that had amazing little positive messages and thoughts on them. What's your connection, or why were you in that kind of space?
So I found out about Voice of Hope in 2020, I think. I was on TikTok and I came across I can't remember what video it was, but it was one of their videos, and then I just hadn't seen much about like people sharing their stories about mental health. So I followed them and then just was very inspired by them. And then we donate like products to different mental health charities and stuff, so we started donating products to them and a portion of profits. And then they asked if I wanted to speak at the event, but public speaking is like my biggest fear and I'll do anything to avoid it. So I like desperately wanted to be there and wanted to be involved, but was not ready to speak on a stage in front of that many people. So I thought it would be cool if I could just like give away my products after, and then that way I can still be involved and still get to go to the event.
Yeah, so, awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course I've had Jen Mora on the podcast already from Voices of Hope. So it was good to make that connection there. why has the mental health space become an important part of your life?
Well, at the time that I found Voices of Hope, I must have been July or August of 2020, I was diagnosed with OCD, like officially diagnosed, but I have struggled with it since I was like 3 years old.
Wow.
But, yeah, it was never something that I'd seen talked about in the media. And so when I found them, and specifically Jen, and saw her videos about OCD, I was just, very grateful that I had came across their organisation, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, because that's Jen's story as well, isn't it? Yeah. That she's had the OCD journey.
Yes.
How do you, like, you hear OCD talked about a lot, but not
in the right way.
Yeah, like how is that for you? Hearing other people use it, like I like straight tablecloths. You know?
Well, I was actually just watching a random YouTube video today, and it was just like, it was this video of a family that lives on a sailboat, and they were cleaning their sailboat, and they were like, oh, you OCD people are gonna love this, like, we're about to clean it, you're gonna have so much fun. It's like, that's just so far from what it actually is. So it's annoying, just like that people don't understand how debilitating it is and just see it as a joke.
Yeah. So it's not about being clean, and it's not about,
well, it can be about being clean,
straight.
But if you're like lining up your pencils to bring yourself like enjoyment, if that makes you happy, then it's not OCD. But if you were lining up your pencils because if they weren't in a straight line, then your house would burn down or your family would get hurt or something, then that's where it's OCD.
Yeah, wow.
It's like, it's not, if you enjoy doing it, then it's not OCD, basically.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's quite a clear distinction, isn't it? That if you're doing it because you just like that.
Yeah, it's like, it may look the same on the outside, but it's the reason that you have to like have everything clean or like do something a certain amount of times that distinguishes like perfectionism and a debilitating mental illness.
Yeah. And so do you mind me asking, how has that played out for you? Like, what does it look like in your space?
Well, it's been very different. Like, it looked very different when I was 3 to what it looks like now. When I was 3, it basically started off, I had a bad dream about a hand coming out of a wooden floor. Wow. And that was terrifying as a little 3-year-old, and it was like the first dream I'd ever remembered. And then my mum was like, why don't we put a blanket on the floor to stop the hand from coming up, like when I woke up from that dream. And then for the next like 6 months, I think, she had to put this blanket on the floor. I wouldn't sleep. That's kind of how it started, the like rituals of that. And then as I got older, it, like when I was 5 or 6, like I just kind of went through phases where I just couldn't sleep, and for a few years I couldn't sleep alone. Like I had to share a room with my brother because I wouldn't sleep by myself, and I had to repeat these super long phrases to every member of my family. Even if they were asleep, I'd have to wake them up, and I had like a 2-year-old sister at the time. So that was sad for her.
Fun for your parents.
Yep. And then that just got really bad, and so my parents went to a psychologist, but I refused to go, and the psychologist gave them some not so great advice looking back, but basically if I'd came out of my room to do the ritual, then if I came out, I think more than once, then they had to lock me in my room, and so I couldn't escape. And like, that's the worst thing you can do with OCD. Like, you can't, if like, it's good, exposure therapy is amazing, but you have to like start off small. You can't just And obviously, like, that was horrible for my parents. They had no idea that that's not the right thing to do. So that was traumatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it just kind of got better for a while. Well, like, I didn't really notice. I mean, looking back, it's kind of just been such a huge part of my life that I don't know that, like, that's not actually a normal thing that every kid does.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very different now, I would say, and like as a teenager.
Yeah. And I mean, just hearing you talk about that, I can hear how debilitating that is compared to someone who enjoys neatness and, you know, all that kind of thing. You know, I mean, I'm the sort of person that, you know, I like to have things the way that they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
But because it brings me joy, not because of what you're talking about, you know, that and so yeah, I guess how do you feel then when people are using it in that other way and just throwing it around there? Is that like a slap in the face for you?
Yes, it is, but then, well, yeah, it definitely is. Like, even when I was in a shop a few years ago and they were selling like a Christmas range called OCD, Obsessive Christmas Disorder, and I was like, are you joking? That is one of my favourite shops, and you are like marketing off this thing that like has like destroyed so many people. That is terrible. But it's like people have no idea because it's just not talked about. And I also think like it's actually just really dangerous, the misconception around it, because like I lived my entire childhood undiagnosed, and that's the same for so many people. Like, they live out their life thinking that they're this horrible person, and like that they're, you know, just because they have no idea what OCD is, and how could they like suspect that they have this disorder when they think that OCD is like loving to be clean.
Yeah.
So it's just, it's not good.
And it's not like they're going to like market a Christmas product around cancer.
No, exactly.
You know, no one would dream of doing that, and yet they do about this. Which, I mean, shows that there's just a lot of ignorance, doesn't it, about what it is, and that, you know, that's one of the reasons I wanted to chat to you and have more people hear about it again. But yeah, what things have you found like really helpful on your journey that have been really good support for you?
Well, in terms of like actually recovering from OCD, that's kind of only started to really happen this year when I started exposure therapy with a new psychologist. So I've had 3 psychologists since 2020.
Yeah.
And
just trying to find the right fit.
Well, yeah, they were all amazing. Like, the first one, I had to stop seeing her because she went on maternity leave. The second one I had for 2 years, and she was incredible. But I think just her schedule and my needs, like, also she didn't specialise in OCD.
Yeah.
I don't think. And so I don't think she didn't really have the time, and I needed more support. So she recommended me my new psychologist, who I see now. And yeah, it's very effective. It's hard, but it's good.
Yeah. And so, I mean, sounds like you'd recommend therapy.
Yes, definitely. But for people that can't access therapy, like, I mean, there are ways that you can do exposure therapy, because it's like, without a therapist, obviously it's going to be much harder because you're in charge of like forcing yourself to go out and do these things that are just like terrifying. But like, it can be done, because it is just simply like, if my brain was telling me right now that I have to like tap that table 9 times, which is like in 2020 or 2021, not doing that would have been like, in my head it would have seemed so dangerous and irresponsible because I used to believe that something horrible would happen if I didn't do that. So exposure therapy is just sitting with that discomfort and not tapping the table 9 times, and like over time you'll see that, wow, like touching a surface a certain amount of times is actually not going to prevent something horrible from happening. Right. And like it's just...
So you were getting the same sort of sense out of this idea of tapping the table as I might get about stepping on the road in front of a car?
Yes, yeah. It's just one's more likely to be dangerous than the other.
Yeah, wow. And obviously, you've had good family support as well. That, like you say, not everything was helpful, but that's not for want of trying. What have you found, I guess, as a teenager dealing with OCD, where have you found let down by kind of the mental health system in New Zealand, or where are the gaps that you've seen? What could be better?
Well, a lot could be better, but I have, because I was already seeing a private psychologist, like that was fine, like she was great, but a lot of people can't access that because it's so expensive, and
it is.
I'm just very privileged that I could, but my mental health was getting much worse and I needed more support. So we went to CAF, Child, Adolescent, Family Mental Health Services, and the wait list for that was so long, and that was because we needed to try get me on medication, but there's no psychiatrists in Christchurch for teenagers, or the wait list is ridiculous, so we had to just wait on the public waiting system. And then I think the wait list was going to be 6 months or something, and then I think the worst thing is that they don't help you unless you're a danger to yourself or others. So I think it was beginning of 2021 I became very depressed because of the OCD, and the OCD actually went away because I stopped caring if something bad was going to happen, because at that time I was like, well, I kind of want something bad to happen, I deserve it. And so it wasn't till then that I had a really bad night, and so we called the crisis line, or I don't know what, I can't remember what it was, but then CAF Emergency saw me the next day. But it's it shouldn't have to get to that point to get help.
There's a massive shortage of specialists, I guess, but also there seems to be an awareness of, or a much bigger awareness of, issues that people have, and less ability for us to actually then find someone to process that with. Mm-hmm. I've dealt with depression and anxiety, and sometimes that's been pretty bad. But those are things that, most counsellors or whatever have some kind of handle on, and they don't need kind of a specialist knowledge of stuff. And so, that for me, that was easier to find support for. Whereas I imagine something like your condition, is it a condition? Is it a, what do I call it?
I don't know.
Your OCD.
Yeah.
Something like your OCD would need much more knowledge, specialist knowledge around it, to be helpful.
It's it needs a lot, maybe not research, but I don't know, I feel like it's just so unknown. And even if I had got through the waitlist at CAF, I think that there was still no specific OCD support. Mm-hmm. It was just I was going to get a psychologist, but I already had a psychologist who was incredible. So I was like, well, what's the point? Yeah. You're not going to give me any extra support that I'm not already getting. Yeah. So,
so it's just a big challenge. And I think there's an amazing number of awesome people in the mental health sector. There's just not enough of them. And so if you're listening and you think of going into that field, could be a good idea.
Please do.
But so, this is something that's been a big part of your life. And now you're running a business called Little Joys by Amelie. you're making all this creative stuff to support people in their journeys with mental health and things. You know, you're still a teenager, but you've been doing this already for a number of years now. So how did that come about?
So I started the business in 2019, and it looked very different to what it does now, because I started off making like little Kiwiana like clay charms, and trying to sell them into souvenir stores, because I was trying to raise money for a school trip to France, which was then cancelled because of COVID.
Right.
But
Got it.
basically I'd been making clay like for fun since 2015, when I was living in America, and it was just like I spent every day making just so many little like charms and trinkets, because all my life I've been obsessed with like anything that's mini, and so
Right.
I just always collect good luck charms and stuff, so the fact that I could make my own was just a dream come true. And so I would give them as gifts to my family and friends for Christmas and birthdays, and then my mum was like, well, you should try selling them. And I was like, okay. And so she was obviously the one that did everything with that, because I'm very shy and I could never walk into a shop and be like, hey, buy my products. So
Yeah.
but yeah, so she did that, and then we just grew from there, which
Yeah.
was,
So you've always been creative.
yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
cool.
That's, yeah, I love creating anything. And I was reading through my preschool book, and like all the notes were like, wow, you're so creative and you always make the coolest things, and I think you're going to be a designer one day. And I was like, well, you're right. Like,
Yeah.
just, I mean, I guess I am. So it's just, it was cool to see that that's something that has always been
Yeah.
a big part of my life, I guess.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, I'll post some pictures and things on my social media and link to yours as well, so people can see what it is that you actually make. But how would you describe what it is that you make?
Well, basically it changed to what it is now when COVID hit and souvenir stores were, like dead.
Yeah.
So they were not going to be buying my products. So we moved online, and I just, because I've always loved good luck charms and like worry dolls so much, I wanted to kind of start making stuff like that. So that's where I kind of got the inspiration to turn it into more of a mental health focused business. Although I wasn't like knowingly struggling with mental health at that point, because that wasn't till like after COVID. But once I started struggling with my mental health, like once I got diagnosed, then I like cared about it more and wanted to grow up more, but I was also like barely functioning, so it was kind of hard to actually do anything at that time. But yeah, that's kind of what it's turned into.
So yeah, and so you make these cool little clay animals and little friends and things.
Yeah, I started off hand making like these mini clay figurines in a jar, and then that was like, obviously I hand make each one, and so I couldn't keep up with that, and I wanted to grow it so that more people could like have access to it, and that, so that we could also be able to donate more, because as much as I would love to just give away all my products, that would kind of, just not work out.
Yeah.
So I started designing like the characters online, and then we got them made into collectible pins and key rings. And then I was trying to get away from the handmade stuff, but I decided that I really wanted to start making clay worry stones, which was probably not the best idea because they take a really long time to make, but they sell really well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, right.
that was my second kind of handmade thing, but once again that's getting way too time consuming.
Yeah.
Like I'm spending 3 full days a week in the office making clay, and there's so many other projects that I'm working on.
Yep.
And because I have ADHD, I just sit there making the clay, thinking about all the things I'm going to do. But then I get home and I'm so mentally exhausted that I do absolutely nothing except go on my phone.
Yeah.
So we've got the samples for them, but we have got them turned into metal worry stones. So
Cool.
the company that produces our pins and key rings, it's that same company, have not created them for us.
Yeah, cool.
And so I'm hoping that can kind of take over the handmade worry stones, because I mean it's still the same thing, it's just I'm not creating them by hand. And I also think because they're metal, so they're like heavier and they have like a grounding kind of feeling to them.
Nice. Yeah, I mean we've got our own business as well, and when we first started off we hand wrote notes to everybody, and it wasn't long until that just was not sustainable.
I know, it's such a cool thing to be able to do, but it's like...
Yeah, and it's one of the things people loved about the business, and then we're like, look, sorry, we're going to print a card and put, but you've got to make it sustainable.
Yeah, otherwise you just can't grow.
Yeah. And I mean, this is our second go at recording this, because the first time we had to put it off because you were swamped with orders. So, obviously something's going right.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting. Are you selling mostly to individuals or mostly to retailers, or both, or how does that work now?
It definitely used to be more online, but it's now definitely wholesale, like to shops, just because online is so hard at the moment. Like so many small businesses are struggling with online, and like the Facebook algorithm and just all of those platforms are not great at the moment. But I'm hoping that online will pick up with the stuffed animals that we have, which is our newest product, and they are arriving next week, which is very exciting. So we should hopefully have them up on the website in a few weeks, which I hope they will do well.
Yeah. And so, like, are you getting good feedback from the retailers, like the shops and stuff?
Yes. The last road trip that we went on to Waitomo Caves and like that kind of area, the shops up there, like the shops that are doing really well now are like the tourism shops, which is cool because that's what we first started off doing, even though our products are not like...
They're not Kiwiana anymore.
No, but tourists are just, they really love like collecting the pins and key rings, and people just have them up on their front counter, and then it's just like, I don't know, they're just very popular at the moment, cool. Which is great to hear.
Yeah. Do you hear back from individuals who've bought your stuff and finding them useful? Yeah,
I do get a few. We get reviews, and I sometimes get messages and comments, which is very cool. Like, it just makes my day when people tell me that they like that my products have helped them, because that's what I designed them for. So, yeah,
it's cool. I mean, I think I've still got your Courage Bunny one in my... Where is it? Let's have a look. I'm sure it's in my wallet here.
There are a lot of cards.
There are a lot of cards in here. There we go. Courage Bunny.
That is so cool.
When you need courage, keep me with you and tell me your fears. I can nibble them up and they will all be gone. Now go out and use my courage to face your fears. It's like, how cool is that? Like,
that is very cool.
And that stays in my wallet.
That's awesome.
And I'm sure there are a bunch of people with things like that around. How do you come up with the ideas to put on those cards and things?
Well, it kind of just, like, I'm always thinking, and so I just kind of think about, I mean, the products that I look for in shops, and when I don't find those products, I create them. And I guess, like, because that was kind of how it was in my childhood, every shop I would look for the tiny little good luck charms or trinkets, and if I wouldn't, like, I just never found one that was, exactly what I was looking for, which is why I created my own, and that's why I love my worry stones so much, because I have my own personal one, which I take literally everywhere, and it's perfect. And it's just so cool that, like, my favorite product is one that I designed. It just makes it more special to me.
Yeah. For people who haven't heard of a worry stone, how would you describe what a worry stone is?
Well, you can get it in like different materials. The first one I ever had, which gave me the idea, was a crystal worry stone, and it's basically just a stone with like an indent in it for your thumb, and it's just, you can like rub it and it's smooth, and it just gives you it's like a fidget toy, so you can just hold it and it helps to ground you or distract you if you're anxious, and it's just like a comforting little object that you can keep in your pocket and hold if you need some extra support. And so the ones that I make are made out of polymer clay, and so I like put the clay in the mold, and then I made the mold with the shape of my thumb, and that took a lot of time to get right. But yeah, I love it. It's great.
Yeah, awesome. Do you ever just stop and look at your life and go, I've faced all this stuff, but here I am, 18, I'm running my own business. Like, how crazy is this?
I definitely do. Like, once again, just today, I was like, well, what's my dream life? Like, what is the thing that I've always wanted to do? And all my life I've either wanted to write books, be an artist, travel, like this kind of, or create or design things, and I'm literally doing all of that. So it's like, it just couldn't be more perfect for me.
Awesome. So what are your hopes for Little Joys from here?
Well, I'm hoping that our new products will take off so that I don't have to keep spending so much time hand making each one, and I can spend that time designing more products so that I can get like a larger quantity out into the world, and so that then I can donate to more people who might benefit from them. And so something with the stuffed animals that we're hoping to set up is, because we started off donating my clay charms in a jar, we have a section on our website where you can purchase one, and then that one that you purchase will get sent to Starship, or we have some that I think that's set up with CAF as well, but I want to do that with the stuffed animals, just expanding so that I can help more people, I guess.
Yeah, awesome. Where can people find you? Where can they buy your products?
Our website is www.littlejoys.co.nz, and my Instagram and TikTok is at littlejoys by Amelie NZ, and Facebook is at littlejoys by Amelie.
Awesome. And I'll link to all that in the show notes so people can find those, so they don't have to guess how to spell any of that or anything. I'm really excited about the fact that, here's something that could be really debilitating for you, and has been, but there's also life that's grown out of it.
Yeah.
And for someone who also has, battled mental health challenges, it's always encouraging to see not only life happening in spite of it, but life happening because of it.
Yes.
That the stuff that we go through actually lets us then give back to the world somehow. And yeah, I think that it's so exciting watching what you're doing, and yeah, why I wanted to get you on the podcast. And also, like, it's cool that you're producing a product that's supporting people with their mental health journeys, but then you're also using that to donate and support mental health charities and things as well. So, it's just a win-win. There's all this cool stuff happening. So thank you for giving up time to chat today, and thank you for all the work that you're doing. Thank you for bringing a bit of heaven down to earth.
Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Hello, hello heaven. Will I hear you whisper to come near?
It was such a blessing to sit down with Amelie and have this kōrero. Mental health is something that affects us all, but some of us in more profound and obvious ways than others, and it was a privilege to be invited into Amelie's story. And how awesome that a business helping others has grown up within her challenges. She didn't wait until she had it all together before adding life and joy to others, which is a lesson I'm sure many of us could take note of. Amelie, thank you for who you are and for what you do. Here is a blessing for you. Amelie, may little joys continue to grow and adapt, finding new creative ways of bringing little doses of joy to people's lives. May you continue to love what you do, designing, creating, connecting, and loving people along the way. May you continue to find the therapy journey freeing and fulfilling, opening more light and life into your world each time, and may the journey of healing you are walking out be fruitful, even in the face of challenges. In these tougher times, when there are seasons that are tremendously hard, may you know that your worth isn't tied up in your mental health or your ability to cope, or even in the success of your business, but that you have worth simply because you are Amelie, simply because you are. May you know that you are a blessing to your whānau, your community, and the world in so many ways, and may others continue to be inspired by you to live their best life too. As you continue to share your journey with the world through interviews, social media posts, and all the products that you make that have been birthed through the pain and joys of life, may you know joy as you make a difference in the lives of others. May you know that the shitty things of life have made a soil from which new life is growing, and may little joys continue bringing you great joy. Lastly, may you know you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved. Thanks to Strawn for the music and Rangi for the karakia. Join me next time when I chat with Mike Maeshiro about his remarkable life journey, from teaching spiritual discernment at the Bethel School of Supernatural Ministry to coming out as gay because of his journey with God, to the fulfilling life he is living on the other side of that moment and the support he now offers to others who are also asking questions about themselves and their faith. It's a powerful story of love and embrace. Until then, me inoi tātou.
E tō mātou matua I te rangi, kia tapu tō ingoa, kia tau mai tō rangatiratanga, kia mea te tau e pai ai ki runga ki te whenua, kia rite anō ki tō te rangi. Homai kia mātou ai nei, he taro mā mātou mō tēnei rā. Muro mātou hara, me mātou hoki e muru nei I o te hunga, e hara ana kia mātou. Aua hoki mātou e kawea, kia whakawaia, engari whakaorangi a mātou I te kino.